have a mainstream narrative about Labour anti-Semitism, which is uncontested, as far as I can see. Uncontested. I've never seen such a one-sided narrative. And I thought somebody has to make a film that at least asks questions that might push back against that narrative. The film is not there to say there is no anti-Semitism on the left, as in on the right and everywhere else. And nor is it saying that every single instance is a smear. But we know there are smears, and hopefully the film demonstrates that. And rather than journalists or politicians just dismissing any attempt to call it a smear as mischief, it's to say, well, actually there are some smears. There's quite a lot of them. They're demonstrable, and people need to ask why that is happening.
For me, there is no separation between the struggle for Palestinian rights and the struggle for equality for black people, or for the rights of Roma, or for justice for poor people, or for women's liberation, and I could go on and on.
The IHRA definition, which has been referred to many times in the film, is too complicated for certain purposes. They couldn't get Jackie on this definition. Yeah. They didn't deploy it because it's very sly but also very sophisticated. Some forms of anti-Zionism can be interpreted as, or can be a cover for anti-Semitism. No. Now we have it from a supreme authority. The Trump administration a couple of days ago adopted the official policy that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Not could be a cover for, it is anti-Semitism. They are going to, you guessed it, apply sanctions to any state that takes an anti-Zionist position.
The film begs a whole number of extraordinarily prescient questions. For me, above all, I think even more so than the question of what is Zionism, is the question of where do we draw the boundaries of permissible and acceptable debate? I think that the reason why people like Jackie, people like Chris Williams, people like Jeremy Corbyn, and so many others, so many other decent, committed anti-racists have had their reputations, have had their careers traduced, have had this grossly and egregiously unjust treatment by the media, is because those boundaries of acceptable debate have really been drawn in the favour of those who are seeking to silence and seeking to delegitimize, ultimately, the progressive mass movement that is behind Labour at the moment.
We are living in times, if we think of this as a witch hunt, I didn't live through McCarthyism, but I feel that it has its own, this is a thing that has its own rules. It needs to be dealt with in a very specific way. It needs to be understood for what it actually is. And I think the way that this witch hunt can make people and issues become kind of toxic, and then make other people who would normally take a stand just want to avoid proximity to those people or those issues so that they don't themselves then become tarnished with that toxicity. The way that it allows organizations, the media, powerful people to simply make allegations without even attempting to provide a factual basis for those allegations. There's not even an interrogation of what is the factual basis for the allegation. It's enough to make the allegation to destroy someone's career or to destroy someone's reputation. I think these are the characteristics of the witch hunt that I don't have a vocabulary for, but I find them shocking and terrifying, and I thought that this film illustrated that aspect really well.
One of the deepest faults in the procedure is that allegations are A, made anonymously, and B, if not proven, the alligator doesn't have to pay any cost. I mean, there is no, it is simply free for all.
I think we have to respond not really in anger or in contempt. We have to try and do pretty much exactly what Corbyn has made a name for doing, which is to transcend that kind of bitter partisan politics and offer something genuinely new, a genuinely new form of discourse. And I think that to his credit, the way that he responded, for example, to the outrageous attack by Margaret Hodge, really did actually help make this narrative has less traction. Where I think the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn have made a mistake is that they have been overly conciliatory and they have not sufficiently defended the reputation primarily of the Labour membership, which is for all intents and purposes, the overwhelming majority are committed anti-racist, and that should have been made clear from the start.
This is an opportunity. We're at a juncture where I think people really have to make a decision about what to do about this. Because I think this witch hunt, with all of the elements that it contains, both the kind of Israeli state and pro-Israeli elements and the elements on the right of society in this country, if they're allowed to continue with this method of silencing people, of making people and issues toxic, it just won't stop. It will become a tried and tested method that can then be used to dismantle other progressive causes.
What I think our research showed is that they really fall under three categories. One is a distortion in accuracy. One of the things that I think did, or at least contributed, to the injustice that was faced by Jackie and others is the way in which statements are taken out of context, are very often egregiously misquoted, or even just the subtlest change or manipulation of one word here and there, or a change in the order of the lexicon of the sentence, dramatically changes the meaning, dramatically divorces it from the context, and paints a completely inaccurate and misleading picture of what was there.
I'm going to have to really ask you to stop.
And the second thing is omission, right? And omission of sources who are challenging these narratives. And we can all play a part in that, not just on social media, but in radio phone-ins, in letters to the editor. I do believe that they make some small difference, inch by inch.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Very briefly, I'm not optimistic about resolving the conflict in the Middle East, but I am optimistic about the task here. It is made easier by events, by, for example, the developments in Israel itself. It is going to be harder and harder to stand by the present state of Israel to defend what it is doing. It is so egregious that I think events will speak for themselves and people will not listen to the lies.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being brief. Finally, Jackie.
Be very quick. I'm really conscious of what's happening locally to people, because thousands of people get in touch with me and I speak to them. I travel the country and I hear about lives destroyed. I hear about jobs destroyed. I hear about reputations destroyed and families who are no longer talking to each other. This is real stuff going on for people. This witch hunt is not happening in a paper. It's not happening in a party system. It's happening to real people whose lives are being destroyed here. And, you know, let's be absolutely clear about the urgency of this. And I know I'm supposed to end with a positive note, but if they can do this now with Corbyn, and we are so silenced by this, then the Corbyn project has no hope. That is the bottom line. So in the CLPs, when you're told to be quiet and to cooperate, and when Momentum tells you, but you know, don't rock the boat because the newspapers, you need to rock that boat. That boat needs to be rocked so hard that they cannot dare to move us off the streets. That's what Extinction Rebellion is about, and that's what we need to be out